Jon Schallert of the Schallert Group came to El Dorado to hold a workshop and visit with business owners who attended his Destination Bootcamp in Colorado.
The reason I'm in El Dorado is your community sponsored a group of business owners to come to our Destination Bootcamp out in Colorado as part of our community reinvention program. And your community is an e-community associated with the Network Kansas program. And so they brought a group of 8 business owners out to our class in Colorado. I'm now here to do a workshop and consult with each one of those businesses individually. Some people ask me, how did you get into this destination thing? How did you get into teaching businesses to become destinations? When I was 28 years old, I was actually a high school English teacher. I taught high school English, health, PE, drama, girls basketball, track, and football. Did I tell you guys that when you guys came to class? I don't think I did, because that would have really put a whole downer on the whole thing. Like, why did we come to Colorado to learn this from a guy who's a high school English teacher? Health and PE, that too. I was in a little small town, and you do kind of everything when you're a teacher. And when we had our second child, all of a sudden we realized, I can't pay the bills being a high school English teacher. My first salary was $7,800 for a year. And so we ended up, I said, what are we going to do? And somebody said, you should get into sales. And I said, well, I'm going to need to sell something pretty easy because I don't know if I can survive in sales. And so the first thing I sold was Smurfs. You guys ever remember Smurfs, the little blue? I didn't tell you guys that either, did I? Yeah, Smurfs. I sold Smurfs and stuffed animals, which was great when you had small kids because you'd bring like samples and our kids would get really excited. I bring teddy bears and Raggedy Ann dolls and Smurfs and stuff like this. So I was selling Smurfs for 16 months. And then what happened is Hallmark cards saw me going into Hallmark stores selling this product. And long story short, they ended up hiring me to sell Hallmark products to Hallmark stores. And I thought, well, that's a lot easier because they need our products. And Hallmark's based out of Kansas City. So they sent me, I was born in Wisconsin and grew up in Colorado, but the first place they sent me was Huntington, West Virginia. And I don't know if you've ever been to Huntington, West Virginia, but it's right at the Kentucky-Ohio border. So they said, we're going to give you all of eastern Kentucky, where the Hatfields and McCoys feuded and Loretta Lynn was, and we're going to give you all of southern Ohio, and we're going to give you all of West Virginia, and you go call on the Hallmark distribution there and help them grow their business. And I said, well, what's this place like? And they said, well, it's a river city. You're going to love it. It's a river city. You ever lived in a river, next to a river? I'm like, no. Oh, you're going to love it. And I said, anything else I should know? They said, there are a few challenges. A few challenges there when you get there. And what I realized when I went there, they had a 28% unemployment rate in the area they gave me. All right. And so it was like a little bit of a challenge because I have no retail experience at all, except selling 16 months of Smurfs. And I'm walking into these retailers who are struggling and they really need help. And they would say to me, what do you think we should do? Well, I'm 28 years old. And so, at 28, you just kind of say stuff. And I remember I said to one retailer, I said, look, we're not going to go after the 28% that don't have jobs. We're going to go after the 72% that have jobs. And they named a process after me called the Schallert method. They rolled it out nationwide for a new product rollout. How do you make a business in an area when the economy either goes down or, for example, maybe the population isn't high enough or the income levels aren't high enough? How do you make a business still viable in any place? And how do you pull people to it from a greater distance? I used to think that the only kind of destinations were retail stores. But you can be a restaurant, you can be a service business, you can be a professional practice, you can be a historic site, you can be a museum, you can be any kind of thing that's trying to attract consumers. How can you become that kind of destination that a customer says, that's the only place for me? The first places that really embraced this were downtowns. But you can apply this to an internet site. You don't even have to have a physical location because the same way that consumers create insistence and say, that's the place I'm going to go, we know exactly how that happens, all right? So this process is what I teach, and this is your class. Your community sent a group of business owners and a coordinator to our class in Colorado to learn this entire 14-step process. And so for 2.5 days, they went through this process with me. And went through and learned this entire 14-step process. And then I come here, and I've been consulting one-on-one with them. Did 3 businesses yesterday, and I'm going to do 5 today. So that's part of this community reinvention process. And Jordan, you can explain at the end a little bit about the e-communities and how the funding worked. It's a pretty fascinating program that really the state of Kansas has like one of the leading small business program funding sources of any state in the union, which is really pretty incredible. What was your biggest takeaway? Taught me this, and we put this into practice. We were playing too small a game. And these are the words that I like to, emphasize with business owners. These days, so many businesses in small communities are playing this really little game. And they're just servicing their local communities, which is fine, but there's so much more you could be doing. And so if you are interested in that, reach out to Jordan. Maybe someday you guys will bring another group back to the boot camp. We'd love to have you. Or if individually you want to come out to the class, you can come out individually. But these days, with all the competition we have and consumers being so much tougher, you've got to play a bigger game when it comes to really making your business one of a kind and really standing out. So Jordan and all the group from El Dorado, I appreciate you guys all coming out. It was a lot of fun group.
Destination Bootcamp. I found out about it through an email from Susie Carson, the chamber director at the time. Last spring, she sent out that I think it was Network Kansas offered an opportunity for however many that went up to maybe 7 or 8. I don't remember what the number was, but Destination or Network Kansas was funding it. And my response was, if this gets momentum, I'll go and I'll go as mayor to show support, because I think if we have a full group of people go, I want to go so I can hear what it is, because I'm interested in making sure the downtown stays viable. It shouldn't think about it as only downtown. Whatever a business does that wants to make a difference, I want to see what the city can do to help that. That's my position. And as it grew in interest, Susie called me midsummer and says, "Yeah, they've got all but one. They have one left, and they're holding it for me." And I thought, "Oh, well, it's time to honor what I said I'd do." So I went, and I really did go, just in terms of the mayor. What is this thing? I kind of knew a little bit about Destination Bootcamp, and it was about strategic planning, kind of crash course strategic planning, and what's it mean to have a destination business. And so I wanted to see if there was show of support, and then also see if there was anything the city as a whole could do to support anybody trying to do that. So that was my interest. And of course, being a business owner myself, there was certainly something for me there to learn there too. My takeaway was to not think small. So much of the examples and the success stories that Jon talked about even look like they shouldn't have been successful outside of their own community, but they were. So don't think small. And as Wichita has a regional conversation, the Project Wichita discussion, and as this whole South Central Kansas begins to think of themselves as a region, we got to not think about just El Dorado. So that was my takeaway out of that. And then as it gets outside of the region, all the better. I will always recommend strategic planning. It's something that we do in our firm on a regular basis. It's a chance to step out and evaluate how you're doing and figure out and think about how to do it better. So strategic planning helps you set goals. So that's what that a lot of that was about. The other thing that was good about it was hearing resources that are available that we didn't really think about. Social media being so important, and to learn a little bit more about what that is and how powerful it is that was a good takeaway for me out there too. But I know it's powerful and we use it, but wow, it's exponential if you do it right, and exponentially the other way if you do it wrong. but no, and I would always recommend, if there's a chance to go again, I would always recommend, and that doesn't even matter how old your business is, really. For example, this firm's been around since '52, so there are new things to learn. If you think there's not, then you're stale and stagnant. But no, I would recommend it. I really would.
So we were able to send these businesses to this business boot camp that was put on by Jon Schallert through our partnership with Network Kansas and our e-community loan program. With that e-community loan program also comes education, and Jon Schallert is one of their certified programs that we have selected to encourage our businesses to implement skills and new resources to only further their successes. So we sent 8 different businesses and chamber members here as an additional membership benefit. Deer Grove, #handmade, Walnut Valley Packing. We also sent H & Company, Haley from there. Charlie's Appliances, Sam McVeigh was the representative. Graphic Arts and Mayor Vince Haines. Caitlin from Brewco, and also Errin from the Next Chapter bookstore.
I'm a member of the chamber here in El Dorado. They had it all set up in motion before I joined the chamber for this group from the community to be able to go to Destination Business Bootcamp. And so right when I was getting a hold of Vicki saying what's going on, somebody else had dropped out of the group. And so there was an opening, and she said, well, by the way, since we're talking, do you want to go to this boot camp thing? And it was great. It was a huge opportunity for me. But part of the community group going is that we all go and have that 2.5-day training with him there. But then after we've come back to El Dorado, we have 4 once a month conferences, phone conferences with him. And so he's been conferencing with our group and doing that over the phone. We've done 2 of those so far. And then the third component is that he comes here to El Dorado and he comes and visits our businesses and says, oh, this is great, but what about that? And could you change this? And, kind of just goes through the place with us and looks at it with that destination business mindset. So many things I want to do, so many ways I want to improve, and so many opportunities. I mean, starting your own business is terrifying in its own way, but it's also just this big blank palette. You can do anything you want with it, and you can go any direction you want with it. And Jon kind of helped us kind of see some of that and see how we might develop that. Well, I'm working really hard to develop a good calendar of events for us. So one thing I hear people say a lot is, oh, there's nothing to do in El Dorado. And so I want this to be a place where people can come and be, and I want to provide those events for them. So we have maybe 10 different events that we're hosting in January. Every Saturday has 1 or 2 events going, so we're pretty full, we're pretty busy. Maybe our biggest event in January is on the 29th, which is Kansas Day. We're doing a big Kansas Day celebration. So we're going to have an author who is local and has written about a local figure and, has compiled the writings of a local figure. And so she is going to debut her novel or her book here and do a signing and a reading. And we'll have a food truck here that night. And from 4 to 7 is the overall event time on Tuesday the 29th. So we're really excited about that event. At the Next Chapter, we are open 9 to 6 every day that we are open. We are closed on Sundays and Thursdays.